Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Breakfast with Ben Thompson and Seema Katecha.
Good morning. Our headlines for you today. Reassurance on the UK's COVID vaccine programme from ministers as the EU plans to control the exports.
The UK applies to join a trade agreement with 11 countries around the Pacific. It could make it easier for businesses to sell to countries like Canada and Australia.
Good morning. Manchester United's Marcus Rashford is the latest player to reveal he's been racially abused online. In a tweet, he says he's been subjected to social media and humanity at its worst.
The story of how an accidental meeting and the kindness of strangers saved one family from the Holocaust.
And is this the perfect location for binge-watching films? A cinema for one in a lighthouse on a remote island.
Good morning. We're looking at a cold and frosty start this morning. Many of us will have a dry day with spells of sunshine, but in the west, we're going to see a band of rain move in, and this will probably bring some snow to the hills of Wales and perhaps the hills of Northern Ireland as well. Join me for the detailed forecast a little bit later on.
Good morning to you. It is Sunday the 31st of January. Our top story today. Ministers have said that they are confident of the UK's COVID vaccine supply and expect the programme to continue as planned. Now that comes after Brussels said it would put controls on supplies exported from the EU.
Now the total number of people who have had a first dose of the vaccine in the UK now stands at 8.3 million, and the aim is to have 15 million jabs done by the 15th of February.
Now, if the government is to reach its own targets, all care home residents should be vaccinated by the end of today. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley reports.
Nearly 8.5 million people in the UK have now had a coronavirus vaccine dose. Ministers believe the rollout is going well and could be a way out of the restrictions on our lives. In the EU, though, there have been delays. Brussels had wanted to use emergency powers from the Brexit deal to introduce controls between Northern Ireland and the Republic, but it ditched the plans after widespread criticism, admitting it had made a mistake.
It clearly was a mistake in that regard. I think, however, what's important is that the channel of communications are open and they are constructive ones. They took on board what we said and they relatively quickly pulled back.
But EU countries have been given some new powers to control exports of vaccines. The government here says it won't affect its plans.
We're confident. We have assurances that the supply that we have procured, the supply that we have paid for, is going to be delivered. That's why we are carrying on with our programme, and I'm working with ministers across the United Kingdom in order to make sure that we can accelerate the rollout of that vaccine programme to make sure that there are more jabs in more arms, exactly as we've planned.
There have been concerns raised about so-called vaccine nationalism, with warnings countries must work together to beat the pandemic. The rollout is proving controversial. Nick Eardley, BBC News.
Well, let's speak now to our political correspondent Jessica Parker. Jess, morning to you. Look, lots of important vaccination deadlines coming up, aren't there, over the next few weeks? Clearly one today as well. How are we getting on as far as that rollout is concerned?
Well, look, as Nick was just reporting there, ministers sounding pretty confident. As you say, a deadline of tonight to have offered, and ministers do talk about offering the vaccine to all elderly care home residents. I don't think we'll probably find out until tomorrow or the next day as to whether that target has been met. Then that really big target of vaccinating or offering the first dose of the vaccination to the 15 million most vulnerable and elderly by the middle of February. Now, clearly looking at the figures, there is some way to go, but again, the government sounding very confident about hitting that target. Beyond that, they're looking to vaccinate the top 9 priority groups over 50s by the spring and all adults in the United Kingdom by September. And I think as you look ahead to the medium and longer term, naturally things look a little bit less certain. But Michael Gove there, a senior minister, saying that as things stand, they think that they will be able to deliver this programme currently exactly as planned. Interestingly, though, in terms of day-to-day supplies, how much vaccine there is at any one time, the UK government being deliberately tight-lipped on that issue. Why is this so important? Why have we seen this extraordinary last few days in terms of the EU's movements? Well, of course, really this is because the vaccine's key to protecting people, particularly the most elderly, particularly the most vulnerable, but key as well across the world to try and unlock economies that have suffered so much and unlock society as well.
Yeah, Jessica, for now, thanks very much. Jessica Parker there, our political correspondent.
Now, the UK is applying to join a free trade agreement made up of 11 Pacific and Asian countries as part of post-Brexit plans.
The CPTPP, say that quickly, is made up of Australia, Canada, Japan, Singapore and others, and it generates more than 13% of the world's income. Aruna Iyengar has more.
2, 1...
Exactly 1 year after waving goodbye to the EU, the UK is seeking trade deals with new friends further afield in the Asia-Pacific region. The CPTPP covers a market of 500 million people, from Australia and Japan to Chile and Mexico, countries around the Pacific Rim generating more than 13% of the world's income. The grouping aims to cut trade tariffs between member countries, allowing for big reductions in import charges. That could mean no tariffs to export whisky to Malaysia or cars to Canada. But as with the EU, trade deals require compromise.
It's going to be asked to make concessions, potentially quite tricky ones. Remember, Australia and New Zealand are members of this pact, that Britain doesn't have a trade deal with them yet, and they have very strong offensive agricultural interests.
The immediate benefits to the UK might be limited. CPTPP nations account for less than 10% of UK exports. That's dwarfed by the massive 43% of UK exports going to the EU. But longer term, the UK hopes to build stronger ties with nations who provide UK manufacturers with components. Tariffs would be cut on UK exports of food, drink and cars. There would also be faster visas for business travel. The UK will be the first country to join which wasn't there at the start, and if all goes to plan, will be the group's second largest economy after Japan. And the icing on the cake, it may be a way of getting a warmer trade relationship with the US. President Joe Biden has hinted at joining the partnership. Aruna Iyengar, BBC News.
Environmental groups are calling on the government to review the HS2 rail project in the light of the pandemic. The high-speed line was signed off by Boris Johnson almost a year ago before travel ground hit to a halt as COVID hit the UK. Construction is underway and the first phase between London and Birmingham is due to open at the end of 2026.
Investigators from the World Health Organization have arrived at a seafood market in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the coronavirus was first detected.
Some Chinese diplomats and state media have said they believe the wet market is not the origin of the outbreak. Our China correspondent Steve McDonnell is in Wuhan.
Well, it's a very big day, at least symbolically, for the WHO investigation team in Wuhan, because they are here at the Huanan market. Now, people will remember that it's here that before it was closed down, we saw the first clusters of coronavirus emerging. And because of that, and the fact that there are lots of exotic animals being sold previously at the market, there was a theory that possibly it's right here that the coronavirus jumped from one of those animals into human beings. However, it's also possible that this really was just a place where the coronavirus spread, because it's just a crowded location. So maybe, somebody came here, they were infected, and then many more others got sick as a result of that. Either way, we're not able to see what the WHO investigation team is doing inside, so we're not quite sure how they hope that this visit will lead to a better understanding of the origins of the coronavirus. But earlier today, they went to a massive wholesale market, and there they spoke to people about seafood, actually, and that's because there's another theory that the coronavirus possibly is able to survive for longer than we thought on frozen seafood. Now, the Chinese government likes this theory because if it was possible, maybe the coronavirus didn't originate here after all. Maybe it came in on, say, a frozen Norwegian salmon. Who knows? Either way, they won't be able to tell us at the end of this trip whether that's true or not. They also won't be able to tell us whether this market was the source of the virus. The scientists are saying this is a very complex matter. It's going to take time, and we're all just going to have to wait.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.